Okay, let's take a look at African society. Doing so will help us understand how the great empires and kingdoms of Africa were able to structure their populations so that they benefited both politically, economically, and socially. Now, getting started, we need to look at what makes traditional African society function. In this case, one of the terms we need to know is patriarchy, and that's a male-dominated society. The man on the right is a member of the Maasai tribe, and he clearly is in charge, and therefore it's a male-dominated society. Now, they also practice patrilineal descent. That's when the headship of the family is traced through the firstborn male or the firstborn male and so on. So this gentleman may be the firstborn son of a firstborn son, and that may be why he's actually the head of a family. They also practice patrilocality, and that's when a woman goes to live with the husband's family. So if a woman gets married, she leaves her home behind and goes to live with her husband's family instead. Right, now, these three patras are the same three patras that we saw practiced in China. And dynastic China was also patriarchy, patrilineal descent, and patrilocal. Now, other things that we need to understand about traditional African social structure is we need to look at what the role of an individual is. Very simply, an individual is an unmarried single person. Okay, that's why they're at the bottom of the chart. You may notice this chart's upside down compared to what most charts we do usually look like. But being unmarried and single is not something people aspire to be, and therefore it's low in the social status. Next, we see what's called an extended family. That's 3 or more generations living in a single household. Okay, so there's obviously benefits from living in a larger family like this. You can help each other out. The more children you have, the more people you have working in the fields. They can take care of you when you get older. So large extended families tend to be the rule rather than the exception. They also have clans. That's a social group comprising a number of families who claim descent from a common ancestor and whose families are linked by marriage. So this is really important. What a clan is maybe 3 or 4 or 10 extended families who are all linked together. But what they're linked together by more than anything else is marriage. It's somebody in one of those families is married to somebody in the other, and that's what contributes to making a clan. Okay, and the last part we have here is the tribe. That's a social group that comprises numerous clans linked by marriage. So the same thing. In this case, a tribe is maybe 4, 5, or 10 clans that are all linked together because they have members from one clan married to members of another clan. Again, the key here is understanding the role of marriage. Marriage is what links people together. That's why an individual at the bottom of the chart has low status. They're not married to anybody. And in the rest of the chart, you can see is what raises your status is your relationship with other people, especially people that you're married to. So what are the benefits and drawbacks to living in a tribal society? Benefits are that you have close family relationships, draws people together. You also have a social security system that's based on family. So if something goes wrong with one member of the family, the rest of the people in the family can help support him and provide security for him. That's very different than our system. Our government provides social security. Now, there's also economic cooperation amongst family, clan, and tribe members. So the benefits are that people work together. They give each other jobs, they lend each other money, they help each other out when times get tough. There's also a sense of social unity and shared history, that people living in a tribal society feel like they come from the same place, they have some of the same traditions and customs, and as a result, it sort of links them together because there's a common understanding about who they are and who they're trying to relate to. The drawbacks are that there can be economic competition amongst different tribes and clans. So if you're not related in some way to another tribe or clan member, you're going to compete with them instead. Also, that can lead to tribal warfare when people start to fight over things like power and economics and food and things of that nature. So when one tribe helps another member of a tribe, but they won't help a member of an opposite tribe or a different tribe. Therefore, you get this idea of my tribe before my nation. That creates a limited sense of nationalism. So many of the nations of Africa today are sort of troubled because of conflict or civil war, but that's because people in those nations aren't loyal to their country. They're loyal to their tribe. And in many cases, the national boundaries that were drawn for many of the countries of Africa separate tribes so that you have one tribe in 3 different countries That's because the lines for those countries were actually drawn by white Europeans about 100 years ago, and their job was to, let's see if we can separate these tribes so we can take power from them. And the way to do that was to divide and conquer. So the problem with today is that many of these countries in Africa, the boundaries of the countries don't match the tribal conflicts or the tribal connections that people try to maintain as a result of living in a sort of traditional society. Okay, so I said earlier that everything had to do with marriage. So let's take a quick look at the traditional marriage practices. You get bride wealth in Africa. That's when a gift is given by the groom's family to marry a bride. Now that's very different than a dowry, which is when the bride's family gives a gift to the groom's family. So this sends a very important message. It basically says that a woman is worth something. And if I want you to marry my daughter, you are going to have to pay me to marry her. That's not the way dowry works. The way dowry works is I have a daughter and I want to get rid of her. I got to pay somebody to take her off my hands. So that's what they do in China. And as we know, the dowry system in China contributed to a decline in the role of women in that society. Their status was low. In Africa, they practice bride wealth, which means the status of a woman is actually high. Okay, so this marriage practice actually says a woman is worth something. So bride wealth equals higher status for women. The gift says that women are valuable as productive members of society. This is very interesting because Africa still has the patriarchality, patriarchal descent, and it also has a patriarchal rulership for the men. And yet, women still have a high status in traditional African society. That's because they practice bride wealth, not dowry. And even though China has the same three patras, the status of women is low. Everything comes back to marriage. And by the way, in the United States, the traditional method we use is dowry. The father pays for the wedding, for the bride. As a result, that's very expensive. So it means if you have a daughter, it's going to cost you something. Unless, of course, you're a modern family and you both pay for the wedding.